Good evening. This special meeting of the Board of Trustees is being held Wednesday, September the 29th. The meeting is being called to order and the time is now 5:30. Everyone, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's proceed to item 3. Board of Trustees business. A, consider approval of National School Lunch Week, October 18th through the 22nd, 2021. Our speaker is Ms. Shelley D. Shanoski. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening. President Morales, Interim Superintendent Ms. Carmona, and members of the board. I want to thank you tonight for allowing me the privilege to speak in front of you to talk about the National School Lunch Week proclamation. The National School Lunch Week proclamation is something that we celebrate every year. It's that we not only do the National School Lunch Week proclamation, but we do our Breakfast Week proclamation in the spring. And so this is a way to really show our community and the Socorro members how we celebrate and recognize school lunches. What is the National School Lunch Week? The National School Lunch Program was signed into law in 1946, and the National School Lunch Week was created in 1962 by President John F. Kennedy. Kennedy's goal was to shine a light and recognize the importance of a healthy school lunch in a child's life. And we are so proud of the work that our team members do every single day to feed our children of Socorro ISD. In the nation, there are over 3 million meals served each day. Socorro ISD, and I apologize for that, I said 3 million, it's 30 million meals a day served throughout the country. And with Socorro ISD, up to date, we have served 852,427 breakfasts, and lunch, we have served 1,166,569. So the work is great. The team is doing an amazing job. Even during this pandemic, we continue to serve nutritious, healthy meals that meet all TDA and USDA dietary guidelines. And we are so proud of the work that our team has done. And so with that, I'd like to read the National School Lunch Week official proclamation. Whereas the National School Lunch Program has served our nation admirably for 75 years through advanced practices and nutrition education, and whereas the National School Lunch Program is dedicated to the health and academic achievement of our nation's children, and whereas recent research shows students are receiving their healthiest meals at schools, and their evidence of continued need for nutrition education and awareness of the value of school nutrition programs. Now for I, Shelley Chanoski, Director of Child Nutrition of Socorro ISD, do hereby proclaim the week of October 18th through the 22nd, 2021 as the National School Lunch Week, and I encourage all residents to become aware of the benefits of the National School Lunch Program and support good nutrition habits for their children in hope of achieving a more healthful citizenry for today and the future. Administration recommends approval of this proclamation.
Motion to approve.
Second. I thank you.
We have a motion by Mr. Eddie Mena and a second by Mr. Paul Guerra. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Shanowski.
Thank you.
We're going to move to item 4 now, presentations. A meeting will be held to receive presentations from various search firms and to discuss and review the selection process to engage a superintendent search firm. Just to begin with, I've got, we had one of our firms withdrew, the Frederick Andrews LLC withdrew from the bid process. And that would be number 1. Okay, just so everybody's information. Not sure if our administration is going to cover this, but I'll go ahead and do this anyway. I'll go ahead and just make sure that we're all on the same page. As scheduled, we have scheduled a 15-minute presentation for each of the firms, and at the end of the 15 minutes, there'll be a 50-minute period for us to have a Q&A session. So there'll be, I guess, an accumulation of time of about 30 minutes, more or less. Okay. So I just wanted to make that clear, so we can stay on task. 15 minutes. There'll be a timer, if I'm not mistaken. There she is. She'll be timing those that are doing the presentation, the firms, and then at the end of the 15 minutes, us as a board, if we have questions, we can. But please keep in mind, let's be courteous to one another. And with only 15 minutes, we got to make sure that all of us, if we have any input, we're all able to speak. Yes? Thank you. We're going to go ahead and get started with, are there any further questions? Any other housekeeping rules? Nothing at all? Okay, super. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started with the second firm. It'd be JG Consulting, 1/4 Consulting, LLC. Please welcome.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, members of the board, members of the community, and staff. And first and foremost, I want to thank the staff for their diligence, their communication, and getting us to this point of discussion this evening. Thank you for your service to Public Education Board of Trustees. It's not lost on us how much time, energy, and effort you put into your roles in service to your constituents. Yes, sir. Okay, sorry. It must be I'm not accustomed to standing behind podiums. I'm vertically challenged thanks to my mom and dad. But again, I was just saying thank you for your service to public education. Thank you to the staff for their thorough communication in getting us to this point this evening. My name is James Guerra. I'm the president and CEO of JG Consulting. Joining me this evening is Dr. Sylvia Hatton. She is a retired superintendent from the Rio Grande Valley, most recently served as the interim superintendent of the Brownsville Independent School District. Not here with us this evening is Dr. Steve Flores and Dr. Arturo Cavazos, also both retired superintendents. So you're seeing the two of us here in person this evening. The other two gentlemen had prior commitments. One is serving as an emeritus type of role with the Holdsworth Center, and that is Dr. Cavazos, so he had another engagement. And Dr. Flores is training a cohort through the American Association of School Administrators, which is going to be a good segue for a little bit of what I will share with you this evening. I don't know why Dr. Flores is a ghost, but he's here in spirit anyway. So a little bit about our group. So our mission is quite simple. We're here to work at the will of the board. We serve the Board of Trustees under the auspice of our mission statement. Our goal is to be inclusive, transparent, and equitable in all things that we do in service to Socorro ISD. And you'll hear me often tell you that we work at the will of the board. We do not have a stable of candidates. We're not recycling candidates from one district to the other and operating in that manner. Rather, we work at the will of the board and bring you all candidates to review and to consider. And the success of a superintendent can be measured in many ways, but ultimately the success of a superintendent can be measured by the student outcomes. Now, this is a very high-performing district and one of the best in the country. We want to carry on that legacy and that tradition. We have a guarantee of success in our contract, and if you look at all of the references which we've provided in our proposal, in the last 6+ years, we've managed 23 superintendent searches from across the country, and to use a baseball analogy, we're batting 1,000. We have never failed a search. Most recently here in Texas, you're probably familiar with our work in Houston ISD. We recently conducted that superintendent search with success. Austin Independent School District is another search that we recently managed, all during a pandemic, which is no short order, as you can imagine. And so I just referenced some of our more recent partnerships. You can see Lamar Consolidated ISD, very comparable in size and demographics in terms of their ADA and student enrollment. Washoe County School District serves currently 60,000+ students, second largest in Nevada. East Baton Rouge serves approximately 48,000 students in Louisiana and their state capital. Boston Public Schools, AISD, and many others. And last but not least, coming soon, the Socorro Independent School District. So some of the differentiating factors about JG Consulting. So first and foremost, it starts with our brain trust. And when I say brain trust, I'm referring to the faculty members of the team. So Dr. Hatton, Dr. Cavazos, Dr. Flores, who will work alongside me and alongside the board, the students, the staff, and the community to better ascertain what qualities, characteristics, traits you're looking for in the next superintendent. They're the brain trust because they are the experienced practitioners. I will serve as the principal consultant, but we will work boots on the ground with everybody, all hands on deck throughout the duration of the search, whether it's 4 months, 5 months, whatever the time frame is that you direct us to work within in those parameters. You will have the 4 of us dedicated to serving you here locally. Now, we do have, I would say, probably 8 other retired superintendents just in Texas alone. So our bandwidth, our brain trust, actually expands East Coast to West Coast. We're the only national search firm that's based in Texas. I live in Austin, Dr. Hatton lives in Wimberley, so our roots are in the Central Texas area, but we have a footprint all over the state and all over the country. And we're the only group that works as a full-service consultancy. So the search business is a third of what we do. We also have a national academy that trains aspiring superintendents, which is currently underway. We have 30 aspiring superintendents in our current cohort that are going through a national 9-month program. The cohort members just convened in Austin this summer. They have 2 more in-person work sessions where they'll go through a program, receive a certification, and then the hope and the aspiration for them is to ascertain more skills, more experiences to prepare them to serve as superintendents. So those are a couple of the key differentiators that I like to point out. The other key differentiator for us, and I talked about transparency and inclusivity earlier, we have an on-demand interview portal. So when we present to you the candidates in executive session, not only will you have the artifacts of each candidate, letters of interest, resumes, academic credentials, references, background checks, all of the above, you'll also have access to their on-demand interviews. So much like I'm doing this evening with all of you and showing you on the screen a little bit about what we do, the candidates will have an opportunity to showcase a little bit more about themselves, because these days it's not enough just to look at a resume, academic credentials, a letter of interest. Candidates will be required to submit and complete an on-demand interview prior to an in-person interview or a Zoom interview that you might hold with them. So it gives you a better sense of who they are, the demeanor, the way they respond to the questions. They're preliminary questions. They're not to circumvent the in-person interview. It's to help us as a firm and you as a board to get to know these candidates better. That's unique to JG Consulting. We're the only search firm in the country that has this type of process in place. And then I mentioned the guarantee success. Should a superintendent serve less than 2 years in his or her respective role, we will conduct the search again in its entirety at no cost to the district. And knock on wood, I mentioned earlier, we're batting 1,000. We've never had to do that. So we're still in a 1,000% track record. The on-demand interview, this is a screenshot of what it looks like. Candidate uses his or her device. They answer preset questions, and generally there's 4 questions. It's a 10-minute interview in its entirety. First question that you see there, what drew you to the position to serve as a superintendent in the Houston Independent School District? So that's the newly hired superintendent of schools for Houston ISD. Superintendent of the year in Tennessee when we recruited him to Houston. So to just give you a sense of what that looks like. So when we present the candidates, we'll play the videos for you. You can ask as many questions as you like about the individuals that apply, but it'll give you a better sense of who they are just from not just looking at the resumes and the other artifacts that we present. And our recruitment is simple. We work at the will of the board, like I said a moment ago. If you charge us with casting what I call a wide net, we can recruit from afar, so nationwide, or if your preference as a board is to recruit regionally or statewide, we can certainly do that. As I mentioned earlier, our footprint is Texas. We're all Texans on this particular team. So if you prefer to recruit within the educational space in K-12, pre-K-12, that's obviously our experiences. Of all of the last 22 superintendents that we've recruited, all have been traditional public school educators, much like Dr. Hatton, Dr. Cavazos, Dr. Flores, classroom teachers, principals, central office administrators, and superintendents. We work with all of the major associations across the country, AASA, the American Association of School Administrators, and of course TASBY, our local affiliate to AASA, Council of Great City Schools, Council of Urban Boards of Education. In fact, some of our faculty members are the original founders of the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents. So we're going to leverage all of these various networks to bring you the best and brightest candidates to consider as we start the recruitment process. Now, this timeline is merely suggestive. It's not anything set in stone. Again, if you were to tell us that you would like to name a lone finalist in January, what we'll simply do is have a backwards planning work session with you, creating major milestones that work backwards from the date that you intend to name a lone finalist. So it's a real simple process that we'll work with you through and help us better understand what some of the major goals are. And this suggested timeline takes into account the major holidays in November and December, and also the recruitment season. If you look at the state of Texas right now, there are currently 40 vacancies for a superintendent across just Texas alone. I mentioned that we're a national firm, so there's quite a few vacancies now. So I like to say we want to strike while the iron is hot. One of the things that you'll also learn about us is we're very intentional. We're currently not conducting any other superintendent searches in Texas right now. We held out for this particular search. We were invited to submit a bid to your neighbors west of us, and we respectfully declined because wanted to work with Socorro. So you're going to have our undivided attention, which is a unique attribute. We're not looking to do every single search in the state or in the country. This is just a quick screenshot, and you can find other testimonials and even videos on our website. jgconsulting.us has written testimonials, video testimonials of some of our clients. This is one of our very first partners just south of where I am and where Dr. Hatton is in San Marcos, Texas. Dr. Cardona has still been there and still there since we helped with the recruitments almost 7 years ago. And I'll finish with this. So we leverage a lot of technology. As you can see, we're a little bit unique in that way. So upon our invitation to come visit with you this evening, I wanted to say thank you publicly. And this is my personal LinkedIn profile, professional profile. The reason I like to show this, you can see at the very bottom, it shows how many views we have. I have a ton of followers due to the work that we have. So it's 1,200 views in a 2-week time frame, 45 likes. We have the largest reach out of any executive search firm in the country. And so that's a huge testament right there. That number of likes exceeds the average that we have when doing this type of work. And that's a testament to the strength of this district, the leadership of the district, the board, your students, and all of those who care deeply about Socorro ISD. So I'll end it there because I want to spend more time answering your questions, and I'll invite Dr. Hatton to join me. If there's any questions that you have that we can answer, I'd love to hear those. Thank you.
Who would care to begin? Anybody have a question? Oh, go ahead, Ms. Nahara.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for being here. In your advertising for the position of the Socorro ISD superintendent, what are the top 3 things about Socorro ISD that you will incorporate into your advertising, and why?
So I think it's important for us to first understand what you feel are the strengths and qualities of this district. Before we begin any sort of advertisement, we will meet with each trustee and understand what are some of these points of pride, is what we call it, that we can certainly convey and articulate on your behalf. So rather than us assuming that these attributes, these characteristics, which we feel are strongly about already, we want to ensure that we're representing your voice, the community's voice, the student voice. And so we'll start with identifying points of pride based on your feedback and your constituents' feedback, including the students that you serve. And so the advertisement will include the voices of everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Mr. Cassiano, go ahead.
What do you currently understand about the Socorro Independent School District, its demographics, its people? What do you guys understand about them right now?
I'd welcome Dr. Hatton to, because
Thank
that's
you.
a practitioner, I think, and then I'll add.
Thank you so much for that. That's the very first thing that I do and that we do as individual team members and as a collective team. We look at the Texas Education Agency, we look at your district website, and we glean as much information as we can about your district. What I know about your district is, first of all, I want to congratulate you on your Broad Award. Excellence, a testament to the outstanding work you do here, and that's a wonderful welcome. But I, as James said, I'm from the border region. I'm from Texas. That's why I'm an important member of this team. I did an interim superintendency. I'm a retired executive director of Region 1 Education Service Center. My administrative work is at La Jolla and Edinburgh. But at Brownsville ISD, where I spent 2018-19 as interim superintendent, it's a district very much like yours. Size-wise, we're almost identical. We had 47,000 students then. You're over that now. Your fast growth, we were thriving, but we weren't thriving in the downtown areas. We were thriving on the way out to South Padre Island, where SpaceX is, and the Port of Brownsville. And we were growing towards the Hidalgo County line. And so what I know is your demographics are almost exactly like mine were in Brownsville, or very similar to the Region 1, the Laredos, the border districts of Texas. I know all about your student demographics and your academic performance, and we all do, not just me. James does, Arturo does, Steve does. So we're very familiar with your data. I don't know the culture other than I can make some conclusions based on the wonderful performances that you have in this district, in your campuses and districts. So we study you first. James said we're very selective. And so your data is what we use to decide if we're a good match.
Thank you, Dr. Hatton. The only thing I would say, and I'll echo everything that she shared with you, but you are a high-functioning district, and for us, our intentionality, we seek to work with reputable districts, reputable school boards, and welcome to the new members of the board. I know it probably seems like you've already put in quite a few years and months already in a short period of time, but our observations from afar and working with this district over the past 20 years, I feel intimately connected not only to El Paso, but to this district. A little bit about my background. I started in the private sector working in the education technology space, and Socorro ISD in 2007 was my first large partnership for that organization when I was at that stage in my career. So I recall walking the halls here at the central office, presenting it with the cabinet, and that was nearly 15 years ago. So I feel intimately connected here, and I think this is an opportunity, and I know it's an opportunity, and a prime one at that, for me to give back and to carry on that tradition and the legacy that you all have worked so hard to establish. So I've always thought of El Paso to be a second home. I come from a family of other individuals who serve as practitioners on the other side, working with this great and wonderful community. My father has been serving in this area for many years, and many of you probably know my dad, and then even my younger brother, who currently lives in McAllen in the Mission area. So I think, we can go on, but I think the true understanding is to learn from all of you, and that's why the community stakeholder meetings are so invaluable, because we get to learn from each of you individually, but then we get to meet with the students, the staff, your constituents, and involve all of those that care just as much as you do about this particular search, because we want to be representative of them. And so we're going to spend considerable time having those meetings. So I hope that answers your question, sir.
I have a question really quick. What kind of strategy do you use to zero in on the candidates? I mean, I've had, I guess, individuals approach me, and they're obviously interested, and I guess they're qualified, but how do you go about, for a simpler term, weeding them out and getting to the core? And then the other question is, how many are you looking at to bring forth?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first question, I'll go to the second part. So we treat the leadership profile. For us, the leadership profile is synonymous with the job description. So I've mentioned a few times now that we're going to ascertain the types of attributes, characteristics, and traits that you're looking for as individual trustees, but as the community's looking for, the students are looking for. That will serve as what I like to call the North Star. That's our beacon, that's our light. So that's our rubric for really seeking out a sitting superintendent or even an aspiring superintendent if the board is open to somebody who is ascending up their career path. We go out and actually recruit, and I use the word poach. So we're looking for candidates who aren't running away from something, but running towards something, who are demonstrating a propensity of success in their current roles. Because this day and age, as you can imagine, folks are looking to just leave and abandon ship. The type of candidates we're looking for will be committed for the long term. And so our measure of success is going to the candidates and making the compelling argument on your behalf and conveying to them all of these wonderful things based on that leadership profile that fit their skill set and their experiences. And I showed the on-demand interview, and I've talked a little bit about our abilities to leverage the different networks. That also helps us to identify the cream of the crop, but also weed some of these out, to use your words. So when we present the candidates, we will not withhold any candidate information, but rather what we will do is we'll make a recommendation of who we feel. So Dr. Hatton, Dr. Cavazos, Dr. Flores, as the practitioners, will work with me to determine who we feel are the cream of the crop, the tier 1 candidates. And we may, hypothetically, let's just work with an even number. Let's say you get 50 applicants, hypothetically. We might present, based on our findings, that of the 50, there's a top 10 or top 12 that should be considered in Group A. Now, the Delta, Group B, is the remaining balance. And so we're not withholding the Group B. You're going to be able to see and identify through our system that here's the number of candidates, 10 in Group A, the remaining 40 are Group B. And again, it's the will of the board. We'll bring our recommendations forward, but you can disagree or agree with us. You may say, well, I like candidate number 11 or number 12. Perhaps as a board, we should consider inviting him or her. So that's our process. And the way that occurs, it's done in executive session. We want to protect the confidentiality of the candidates. And we're presenting all of these findings, the artifacts, the on-demand interviews, all at that time. It's a lengthy meeting, but it's a very important meeting because that's when you will determine who you wish to bring in on planes, trains, and automobiles to interview. So we'd like to ask you to spend some time with us during that meeting, and we'll plan well in advance of that so that way you understand what the expectations are.
Go ahead, Mr. Guerra.
Mr. Guerra, how extensive is your background check?
Very. So not only do we conduct our own internally, we outsource and we incur the cost of this. The organization that we work with is Baker Eubanks LLC, and I often like to say their sole purpose as a profession, as a company, is to conduct background checks. Each background check that you will receive in a PDF format encrypted It will verify academic credentials of all the institutions they've attended, identify their credit scores, if they have unpaid parking tickets, a lien on their home, and all of the above. So if Jacques Cousteau dropped the treasure chest in the bottom of the Gulf, this company would find it. So any profile can range from 20 pages to 40 pages in length. I mean, it's very extensive. And we incur that cost because naturally it's our reputation at stake too. So we want to make sure there's no stone unturned.
If your company is selected, would your firm go out to recruit? In other words, if your company is selected, would you recruit our superintendent for another district?
No, sir. And that's a guarantee in our contract. We have never recruited, and I mentioned this earlier, that we do not work with the stable of candidates. And by definition for us, that means we're not recycling one candidate from Socorro ISD, let's just say, to El Paso ISD. It's written in our contract. So we have a track record of success, and so we hold firm to that. Thank you for that question.
Go ahead, Mr. Mena.
Based on your experience with the size of our district, how many candidates do you think we'll have?
You'll have no shortage of talent, and I'll finish that question in a second with a final statement. But I anticipate, based on our experience, a district your size with your student ADA, you're going to have anywhere from 45 to 65 candidates, is my expectation.
That many.
And I'm basing it off of our recent search in Lamar Consolidated. They serve 45,000 students. They had around 50 candidates, and that was just within the last several months. And that's also during the same time frame when you had just as many vacancies in Texas. And so the real question will be, and I'll know when we've done our job, is when we get to the final stages of the interview, when you tell me and you tell Dr. Hatt and the other consultants, it's like, wow, this is a difficult decision. I don't know how we're going to pare it down to just one. And so I would invite you to talk to some of our other board partners that we've worked with, and I think they would share with you, and I know they would, that it was a razor's margin edge with many of them because their top 1 and 2 finalists were so close in terms of their pedigree, their experiences, that the board could have gone either way. Yeah, we had some board members, yeah, I don't want to say who, but it added pure joy that they were that happy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have another question really quick.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that you would bring that candidate of possibly someone that you would to us so we can actually meet them or interview them. I think you kind of mentioned that. I know in the past this board has traveled to go visit particular candidates, or I should say those are of interest in their own habitat, in order to determine how they function. Is that something you would recommend, or how would you?
Yeah.
What kind of
Yeah,
process do you use for that?
Yes, sir. And that has been a common practice, and I would say more so during the pre-pandemic days. I think now our greatest challenge isn't so much that you're not unwilling to make that happen. It's the ability and whether or not the host, the current employer or district of those candidates would be willing to allow us to visit. Some of the candidates that we've recruited recently don't allow for visitation, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it. So we have coordinated trips on behalf of our board partners to go see the local district of your. Typically, it's done with your top 2 or 3 finalists. I don't know that it happens as often with the first round of finalists.
Do you incur that cost for them to come here, or do the individual candidates incur their cost to travel here or to do what they need to do? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and sometimes the candidates will bill us, and other times they'll just incur the cost. I've seen it go both ways. We're amenable to whatever you feel is appropriate. I think nowadays, because of the sheer number of vacancies across the U.S., I think candidates are more prone to incur that cost because they see this as we're going to put our best foot forward, and we're going to incur the cost of travel, much like we did this evening. We committed to being here, and so even though we had the opportunity to engage virtually, we wanted to be here. So I would imagine, based on recent experiences, the candidates will incur their cost.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
One more.
Yes, sir.
Oh, go ahead. What was the
ahead,
timeline
Mr.
of your
Cassiano.
last superintendent search?
Well, so our average search, I would say the duration is anywhere from 4 to 6 months. So it really depends on the goal, the end goal in mind that I referenced earlier. So if your intention is to name a lone finalist shortly, let's just say shortly after the new year, we're going to work backwards. So we don't need to rush. We're at the will of the board. So if you
I was
wanted,
just curious.
yeah, if you wanted to elongate the search to 9 months, that's perfectly fine by us.
Go ahead, Mr.
You
Butler.
said something that I liked earlier was that you don't like anybody that shies away, that they run towards the challenge. And that's kind of a unique or strong feature of leadership. I want to understand your mindset or your company's mindset a little bit more about leadership, what they want to look for in a leader.
Right, right. So I think there's a number of attributes and qualities that define good leadership. And what we do is, in terms of our networking, is we hustle, simply put. And when we're engaging with superintendents, we're meeting with superintendents every day. I can give you some context on my recent travels. I've been on the road since September 19th, which was a Sunday. Haven't been home. I've been in 3 different states over that period of time, meeting in person with superintendents and trying to better understand their temperament, their demeanor, their disposition to public education, because they're public school educators by trade. So I look at the strengths of my team, and I use them as a barometer and a metric for how I define leadership. But those who have demonstrated a significant track record of public education is how we ultimately define our rubric. But again, it all aligns back to the leadership profile that we create together collaboratively. So if there's a unique attribute that stands out, that's going to serve as our North Star. And we're going to use that to recruit talent that have demonstrated that he or she has successfully served their current community in that capacity. Because the superintendents who aren't looking for a job are the type that we want to recruit to come serve in this district. Those are the ones that you know are the cream of the crop. And it's our job as a recruiting firm to recruit those individuals. And that's where we thrive, because we don't rely on advertising. That's another key element to this. We're out there hustling. You know, we're on the grind 24/7.
Okay.
Thank you for that question.
Thank you. And that concludes our question and answer session. Oh, we do have one more. Okay, we're out of time, but go ahead.
Mr. Morales, I actually just have a question, probably for the timekeeper. Was that the end of the 15 minutes for their presentation, and so now the 15 minutes of our questions continues, or was that the entirety of the time? Oh,
Good.
gotcha.
You're okay? Okay. We're good. You don't have a quick question, maybe? I hate to,
I do have a quick question. You mentioned, thank you
you're welcome.
for allowing me to present the question. You mentioned town hall forums in your proposal. Typically, we have town hall forums, several of them, usually in feeder patterns, and we have, high schools are the feeder patterns. Can you describe to me what your typical town hall forum looks like?
Absolutely. So we're on the tail end of a superintendent search in San Diego, California. All of last week, 3 of us were in person conducting town hall meetings. They only have 10 sites. So California has high school districts, and they have elementary school districts that are considered their feeders. So what we did in San Diego in this district, we had town halls at each of the 10 sites. So we hosted 2 each evening, Monday through Friday, for an hour apiece, facilitating and being monitored and moderated by myself and our colleagues. And then prior to that, we had virtual town hall meetings each day before the first in-person to accommodate those who didn't feel safe being there in person, or that just couldn't join us in person for whatever reason. So all in, just that week, last week, we were burning the wick at both ends. We had 15 town hall meetings throughout the course of that week. And then last night, we dedicated a separate town hall for the Spanish-speaking families. So we held a town hall in person in Spanish. So if there are town halls outside of English and Spanish and other languages spoken in this area that need to be held, we would need to rely on some sort of support internally. But if anything that can be done in English and or Spanish, we'll do that, including our online surveys. We have a system that we subscribe to that we can do in any language, but predominantly our strengths are English and Spanish.
Okay, Mr. Guerra, but what what's the purpose or what is your intended outcome from each of those town hall meetings?
We will create a summary report for the Board of Trustees to better understand what the community, the staff, the students are saying. So we'll present that publicly. It's a synthesized synopsis of all the feedback. That will drive and serve as a catalyst to develop the leadership profile that I keep mentioning. That will be our North Star.
Okay.
So that's the outcome. That's the input and the output. Thanks. That's a good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that'll conclude our session for
Thank
this
you.
evening. Thank you so much, Mr. Guerra, and your company. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Again,
have
thank
safe
you for your
travels, too.
service.
Safe
Thank
travels,
you.
too.
Yep. Best of luck tonight.
Yes. We're going to go ahead, unless there's anything else pressing, we're going to go ahead with our second, which would be number 3 in the agenda. McPherson and Jacobson LLC. At this time, we'd like to have them do their presentation. Welcome, Dr. Rhodes. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Don Rhodes. I am one of the newest members of the McPherson Jacobson team. I wanted to communicate to you that I am the Texas leg of this team, and I am a practicing superintendent in North Texas. Joining me is our senior consultant, Dr. Steve Joel, and assisting him with the presentation tonight is Dr. Tawana Grover. And so I wanted to lead the pack. I'm also the guy that brought the packets. I would have brought you something to eat, but I didn't think about it. But we're going to go ahead and get things kicked off, and I'll turn this over to Dr. Joel.
Thank you, Dr. Rhodes, very much. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, awesome. It's a real pleasure to be with you this evening, and I just want you to know that we are super excited to do this presentation tonight. We are a leading national firm. I've been with the firm for about 25 years. I'm currently the superintendent of schools in Lincoln, Nebraska, and just announced my retirement this week, effective at the end of the school year. So I've been an urban superintendent for about 12 years, and I've done all of the urban searches that McPherson Jacobson has been a part of in a lot of the different states. Dr. Grover is the superintendent in Grand Island, Nebraska, but she also has some Texas ties. And you want to just talk about those very quickly, Dr. Grover?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Yes. So 13 years in the state of Texas and worked in the areas of human capital and curriculum and instruction. And just excited to team up with our other partners here to help you find the right leader at the right time.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So we put a dynamic team together, the three of us and Dr. Henry Roman, who is fluent in Spanish. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us today. He's in Mexico vacationing with his family, but he's excited about being a part of this search as well. We have not done a Texas search, full disclosure, and we are very, very interested in getting our first Texas search. We'd love it to be Socorro. And I can tell you that in every urban district search that we've done that opened up a state, people became very impressed with our model. And as you're going through this process this evening, I will tell you, and I'm sure you've already figured this out, the firms are pretty equal with pretty good track records that are very similar. It comes down to the consulting people and team, because they're the ones that are going to be doing the work to hopefully bring you the best possible result that we can. And our track record speaks for ourselves. So we've got a nationwide footprint. And one of the things we're really proud of is our superintendents stay in their positions for quite a while. So I wanted to, we know we have 15 minutes, so we're going to highlight this. You've got the packets in front of you. I'm gonna skip over to a slide that I think is just really punctuates what we stand for. We're all about kids. We understand that if students aren't successful, districts aren't successful, board members aren't successful, administrators aren't successful. We know that because of our urban experience, not only that we're leading urban districts ourselves, and but we also know that through our searches that doing urban searches really is different than doing searches that are non-urban. And we have an excellent understanding of those searches. Just in the last couple of years, I've led 3 of the biggest searches in the Phoenix area, which all turned out to be very successful, and hopefully their superintendent's going to stay there for quite a while. I've done a few searches in New Mexico, Charlotte, North Carolina, Las Vegas, Nevada, Orlando, Jacksonville. So we've got a lot of experience in the urban landscape. We understand Texas education, and we understand leadership. We understand what it takes for leaders to be successful, primarily because we've been successful in our own professional lives. We understand the current challenges that you're facing, that virtually every district across the country is facing right now, with just the political discourse, the discussions over equity that are just so important. We understand how important it is to lead equity because we've been successful in leading equity, and we see that happening in our urban searches. And with us, and again, not just because you'll be our first Texas school district, but we'll work in tireless partnership with you to make your community understand the challenges that you're currently facing, but also get them to buy in to, and we realize that there is big buy-in already in your school district, but for them to have ownership in the next superintendent, so the next superintendent can enjoy the same kind of tenure as your previous superintendent. That's always been our goal with McPherson and Jacobson, and we've got the track record to demonstrate that. So we put a slide here together just about our policy, practice, and promise. We will. I don't believe any search firm is any more connected to the national superintendents groups than we are. I don't believe that any search group is going to have folks that are have been working as recently as we've been working in the urban setting, and we've really made an effort to increase our diversity. And this slide kind of just gives just a quick look at 32% of our applicants are females and 25% are ethnically diverse. We make an effort to recruit diversity. I and Dr. Grover are involved with several organizations around the country. I'm a teacher and a mentor with the Urban Superintendent Academy out of through the American Association of School Administrators out of Howard University in Washington, D.C., and that's aligned with the USC, very, very similar program. So we're talking to superintendents all the time. We're talking to the trainers of superintendents all the time, and we're building interest in the districts that we're working for. There's just a quick snapshot of some of our associations that we have. Again, we're very, very proud of. We know who the leaders of these organizations are. We make phone calls all the time, trying to get the best candidate pool that we can get. And as I mentioned before, our superintendents stay, and that's something we're really proud of. And I think when Dr. Grover gives you a quick highlight of what our 5 phases are, you'll understand that what separates us from some of the other firms is that we not only put a guarantee out there, but we're going to work with you and your superintendent for 1 year after placement to help team build, to help set performance objectives. And I pretty much stole a little bit of your thunder, Dr. Grover, because I'm so proud of that phase 5, which really to me is the game changer for superintendents in urban settings as well as non-urban settings. So let me turn it over to Dr. Grover to just go very quickly over our model.
No, I really appreciate that simply because we do believe that our 5-phase superintendent search process, it really involves the systems which make us successful. And it helps us to really build a comprehensive approach and be very intentional in working on your behalf. When we start out with the search process, of course, we're going to move through phase 1, where we're going to establish characteristics of what you're looking for in your next superintendent by listening to you, supporting you in a process of gaining just extensive feedback from your stakeholders. And as we recruit individuals, we develop a very customized application packet that's based on your needs. We're going to go to distance in terms of advertising for your position. We are very fluent with our seamless application process, but also on social media platforms. As Dr. Joe mentioned, being connected where we can just pick up our cell phone and call any of these organizations to let them know about your districts and highlight through the brochures, advertising, and working closely with you to develop a high quality product so that applicants are interested within your district. We're going to also make sure that they understand your demographics and knowing that you have 92% of your students are Hispanic, more than 25% of them are EL students. You have diverse socioeconomic statuses, and you're high performing, celebrating 60 years. There is a lot of reasons to want to come to your school district, and we're going to make sure that we can highlight that. As we work through the phases and we review the applications, we read every application. It's not about who you know, it's about us scrubbing those applications, looking for those high quality applicants and those characteristics that you have defined. When we go through that process, we will also create video interviews for you where we pre-screen them and provide you with videos of the top candidates. You will have access to all of the applicants and you can view any of the information. We also, the McPherson and Jacobs, they go the distance in terms of vetting and we want to make sure that that is important because when you name your lone finalist, you know that we have a very high-tech, deep scrutiny process that we go through in order to make sure that these candidates are vetted. And as Dr. Joe mentioned in phase 5, that really it allows that transition process for you to transition the reins with whomever you have there now or who's going to be your new superintendent. We work with you within that process to make it seamless. And we're going to stick with you even past a year into this process, helping to develop those superintendent goals, working alongside you. In addition, at no additional cost to you, we will help you with any type of contract feedback as you're working through your contract and you want to discuss that. We're more than happy to do so, as well as if you want to update your job description to match the new profile that you developed for this particular superintendent search, we will provide those services to you as well with no additional cost. And so, Dr. Joe, I'll turn it over to you if you want to have last words.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Grover. So that's it. We want to be mindful of your time, and we know you have some questions, but again, I'll just say that our phase 5 guarantee is a game changer for us. Any sitting superintendent will tell you that the way to get off on the right foot is to have facilitated conversations with school board members and a superintendent to develop those first year performance goal expectations. And that you just, we're ready to go to work for you. We have a dynamic team and we'll come up with a calendar that makes sense. And I'll tell you that our candidates really appreciate the manner in which we treat them and the manner in which we make sure that they are who they say they are. So I'll stop there and we'll turn it over to your questions.
Got a question? Ms. Nahid?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. My question is, what are the top 3 things about Socorro ISD that you would incorporate into your advertising of the position and why?
Dr. Grove, you want to answer to that or you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I was trying to see how to stop screen sharing. Maybe, oh, yeah, it would be you have to maybe stop screen sharing. Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, you have a lot to be proud of. And number one is certainly the diversity that lies in your school district. You're a high-performing school district with a huge, so high-performing, diversity, and indeed incredible opportunities to partner with your community. I think the unity that you've built and the trust that you've built throughout your community, it would give any candidate the opportunity to know that they come in where you will work together with them to produce high expectations. And as you say, with opportunities, I mean, endless opportunities for your students, from college and career readiness to early childhood education to health and wellness. They have the opportunity to lead a state-of-the-art, top quality, nationally recognized school district.
And I'll add one more, is stability. And, you know, with regard to a superintendent that had been there for a number of years, there was an article, I think, in the Washington Post a couple of weeks ago that talked about the graveyard of superintendents around the country. And urban superintendents on average last about 3.6 years. And so, you know, whenever we're working with a district where the superintendent has a legitimate opportunity to not only do good work, but also be able to stay there for a while, that's a big marketing piece as well.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Castellano. He has a question.
Dr. Grover, you already touched on some of it, but what is your understanding of the Socorro Independent School District, its demographics, its needs? What do you see its future?
Absolutely. Well, my colleague and I, he asked me earlier, knowing that I'm from Texas, he said, hey, have you saw any great searches out there in Texas? I said, the one that we're talking about tonight, simply because definitely when you take a look at Socorro and your demographics, as I talked about, I have had the opportunity to look on texas.gov and to research. But yes, you are a growing district approaching 50,000. You just think about 60 years ago, you started with a one schoolhouse, and look how much you've grown. And also just thinking about, you have English language learners. You also have about 12% of your population that are receiving special education services. But at the same time, when you talk about those opportunities for students to be college and career ready, you have a strong graduation rate, and the programs and the supports that you put in place, along with your partnerships with your families and community, it makes a huge difference. And so in terms of your future, I really think we're going to be definitely listening to you, listening to your community, so we have that current pulse of what they feel is needed in their next superintendent, as well as you have new members on your Board of Education. So just codifying those desires into that package is going to help us to be able to sell your district. But we can already see that it's definitely going to be a leader that can come in and understand the different landscapes, all corners of the community, political navigation, and making sure that you keep high expectations for all students, equitable outcomes would definitely be a charge for your next superintendent.
Thank you.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Mr. Butter.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on that 1 year after, if the superintendent comes in, how that's going to work? Are you going to work just strictly with the superintendent, or is it the superintendent and the board? And is that cost already incurred with the package?
Yes, it's built into the package. It's 5 phases. That's the 5th phase. So what we typically do is 30 days to 45 days after the superintendent has begun their contract, we will come in and conduct an all-day retreat, planning retreat with the board and the superintendent. And it really will be about team building, and it's much of it is research based, and it'll be a get to know. It'll be a, what are the individuals' strengths, and it'll be try to create an understanding of the important work ahead. And then the concluding piece is, what are the first year performance expectations that are mutually agreed upon, that the superintendent and the board will focus their attention on. And that doesn't take away from the day-to-day requirements of the superintendency, but it gives the superintendent an opportunity to focus on the big picture thing. So one of the ones I did in Arizona, it was all about community engagement. They wanted to improve dramatically community trust and community engagement. And so what we do is we set that as a goal, and then working with the superintendent and the board, we then create the what are the measurables? What are the measurables to get there? What will you accept as evidence that when you do your evaluation of your superintendent and your self-evaluation as a board, that you've got substantial progress. And every district's different with regard to what emerges. But what I really like about that part of the work is the performance expectations mirror so much of what the community has said to us when we conduct those week-long stakeholder meetings. But yes, that's built into the contract.
Go ahead, Mr. Mena.
Where are you based out of, and how many employees in your corporation?
Okay, so we're based out of Omaha, Nebraska, and there are 4 full-time people that work and 126 consultants in just about every state in the country.
You mentioned that Texas, this would be the first school district that you would attempt to acquire. Can you tell us why you haven't had any other school districts, or what? Is there a particular reason? Is there you're more focused maybe in a particular part of the country, or being Texas as large as it is?
Yeah, I think, well, Texas is large. I'm familiar with the search firms in Texas and the folks that are doing it. You know, we do a lot of cross-referencing with candidates. We just really haven't made a concentrated effort to go after a Texas search. And, you know, we're ready now with Dr. Grover's experience in Texas, a number of years as a deputy outside of the Dallas area, and now Dr. Rhodes joining our team. We just feel like we've got the team that will be able to do this work to the quality standards that McPherson Jacobson has. So that's been it. We've not made not made a concerted effort. And in all honesty, I would tell you too, it's been I'm the person that really has headed up all the urban searches, and my availability up until now just really hasn't been allowed me to be able to pursue too many of these. I try to do 1 or 2 urban searches a year, and I've decided that if we could find the right opportunity in Texas, we're going to do such a great job that there's going to be a lot of other opportunities that are going to emerge, and that's what we've seen in all of the other states where boards took a chance on an Omaha firm and quickly realized that the product that we can develop is as good, if not better, than anybody else.
And I think I'll add to that, Dr. Joel, there is so much pride in your school district. I mean, it is just a magnet for us to really think about a school district that has such high expectations. And I can attest that McPherson and Jacobson, they have high expectations. They actually recruited me out of the state of Texas. And they will go the distance to find you the best candidate. And we know that is something that you strongly desire, and the reason why we want this opportunity to serve you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we've had our session has expired. The time has expired. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can close it up at this time.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you Thank you for your time. We appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that said, thank you. We're going to continue on with the fourth, or in this case, number 4 in the agenda, and that firm is Ray and Associates Incorporated. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I want to take this off to speak, if that's okay. I'll follow your lead on it. All right, I think we've got a presentation. It's going to... All right. I have issues with clickers. We go way back.
Okay. If you can bear with us, they're working on the connection back. We'll get it up and running as quick as we possibly can. Back, here we go.
No worries. Thank you very, very much. We'll go ahead and introduce myself. Thank you for having us here this evening. Thank you, trustees, Dr. Kimono, for allowing us to be here tonight. I know it's an exciting time in the district. Thank you for the administrative team that are here. I was looking at the 100 days for Dr. Carmona, the tweets that went out the other day, and it was exciting. And so I know you're excited to get into this process. So I know you visited with some great firms tonight, and we hope to be able to give you all the information you need to help you make a great decision. And as soon as this pops up, we'll get going. But as I stated before, my name is David Faltis, and I represent Ray & Associates out of Iowa. And we have a couple of people online. We have Dr. Barbara Goodman. Barbara, we can see if you'll wave. She's an HR professional out of Arizona. And then Mr. Mike Collins is online somewhere back there. I heard his voice a little bit. He's the president of our firm. And I think each of our resumes or vitas are in the information that you had prior. And so, again, I know you're visiting with several different firms tonight. So we're just going to talk a little bit about what sets us apart as Ray & Associates. I've been with the firm about a year now and have really enjoyed their process and the people and how they do things, and so I hope to share some of that with you this evening. As I mentioned, my name is David. I was in South Lake Carroll ISD for 15 years. Prior to that, I was in Navasota ISD for 7 years, and then I was in Bryan, Texas, and then a little town called Winters, Texas. If you're ever driving from Abilene to San Angelo, don't blink at the light, because that's where you'll find me. So, been all over the state for the last 33 years. See if we can't get this. It froze up on me again, I guess. There we go. We'll talk a little bit about Ray & Associates. We are a little over 45-year-old firm, a national firm, as you can see. We specialize in school executive searches. We do them all over the country. We do quite a bit in Texas. We've been very active here, and we'll talk about some of our experience in Texas and districts similar to you guys. Our professional consultants are all over the country. We have a broad network. We have a lot of folks that know a lot of different people, and about 40% of our consultants are women or people of color, and we take great pride in having a diverse background. We've got great school administrators, business executives, school board members, state school board members that run the organization, and we're very proud of them. We believe that we have one of the largest pools in the nation, recruiting pools, of people that look to Ray & Associates to help them find their next position. We are the only woman-owned search consultant, as far as I know, in America. And again, we believe that we provide a unique and collaborative perspective to your search, and we look forward to working with you. And you can see some of these other bullet points. We will talk a little bit about, we like to tell you about, we do have an internal statement regarding inclusion, equity, and elimination of institutional racism. We believe very strongly in that, and I won't go through the bullet points. Again, you've had an opportunity to read those, but you can see some of the things that we believe firmly in, and I think from the leadership down to each of the search consultants, we are firmly committed to provide as diverse a pool of applicants as we can for you to select from. Typically, and I've heard some of the others mention, in most of our searches, we're going to have between 40 and 50 applicants. And again, similar to, I think, what James said earlier, we think in this district, you'll have probably 60 to 65 people. You are obviously a very well-known and very well thought of district. You've got a great board, you have a great reputation, and that helps people to look at you. As a retired superintendent, I know how important that is, to know that you've got a good team of 8 and people that work together for the best of your students. I don't know why I guess through the translation, it's kind of, some of the lettering's off there. But, this is your search, and we can talk about process, we can talk about how we do things, we can talk about how we like to do things, we can talk about how we encourage you to do things, but ultimately it's your search as far as timelines, as far as how many community groups you'd like us to visit with, as community forums, staff members. We're going to work with you to decide. There's an old saying, it's their kids, their school, their money, but you represent them. And so this is a search that will be based upon what you tell us you would like to see. We will start out with individual board interviews and visit with each of you personally. One of our search consultants will go through some questions and answers with you to find out what you're looking for, what you desire, what your dreams are, not only for the district, for the next candidate, the next leader of your district. We'll also go through that did not translate very well, so I'll try to speak to it as best I can. But as we develop the profile, again, we'll start out visiting with you. We do have a survey that we'll send out to really whoever you ask us to, but it typically goes to staff. It can go to students. It can go to community members. It obviously go to you, go to your leadership team. And we go through, really there's 31 characteristics of what your community is looking for in their next leader, and we can talk through that. And then as we come back to visit with you about building that profile, we can share with you these 31 characteristics. We can filter them down by here's what your community says, here's what your students say, here's what your administrative team says, and here's what your board says. And that will help you to develop that profile by which we will go and do the search. We will then go out and, I hate to say, but beat feet, right? And just knock doors and make phone calls and reach out to people that we know. I heard it again said earlier this evening, the candidate that you're looking for is probably very happy and doing a great job in the position where they're at. They could be in your district, they could be in a neighboring district, they could be in Washington State. But with our network of consultants nationwide and with me having the network that I have here in the state, we're going to be able to find those people that are doing really outstanding jobs for their communities and their school districts and hopefully encourage them to apply to you. It's hard to see there, but our robust website, we have over 28,000 unique visits to our Ray & Associates website every month. And so as we start to put out this posting, we start to put out the profile information, what we're looking for, we're going to have people looking at your school district. Again, Socorro is a great place to be, and obviously I think Texas is a great place to be. We've got a couple of guarantees we'll talk about. We do guarantee that we're not going to come back and recruit your candidate or your sitting superintendent for 5 years. And then if for some reason within the first 2 years you decide, you know what, that just didn't work out, we're going to go our separate ways. We'll come back and on offer to do that search for you free of charge. And again, we don't plan on that happening. We haven't had to kind of honor that commitment, but that's our guarantee to you, and we'll stick with that. With our candidate pool, again, we're going to go through and screen candidates based on the profile that we work with you to develop. And we will bring to you a group of candidates. I think somebody else mentioned there will be we will do a video interview. We've been doing those for about a decade, where you can actually see the candidates, hear them answer a couple of basic questions about themselves, their leadership style or thoughts on education, because this person is going to be representing you. And so really before you even bring them to the district, we kind of feel like it's important for you to hear how they speak to you, to your community, to education, and so we'll do that as well. And then at that time, all that information is yours. If there's 60 applicants, 100 applicants, if you want to look through all that information, you're welcome to do that. We'll typically filter those down to 6, 8, or 10 that we think are great candidates, and then we'll go through that process from there. Typically, when we get down to the top 2 or 3 candidates, that's when, depending on whether you want to bring 6 or 8 in for first round interviews, and then if you want to bring them back in 2 or 3 later, we can do that. With COVID and actually thinking about expenses, sometimes we've done that first round of interviews virtually. I think everybody's pretty much used to doing that now, but we'll go from there. But you'll select the candidates. We'll go through those top candidates with you. Again, as we've said before, it's your search. We want you to feel comfortable. We want you to feel like that you have represented to the community exactly what they've elected you to do, and so we think that's very, very important. Let's see. And then finalizing, we'll go through those final interviews and we'll go through that finalist selection. We'll help you and assist you in negotiating a contract with that person. We'll have a pretty good idea by the time we get through the profile development. We know kind of what your budget is for that, and we would not want someone to be surprised. I think that's on one of the slides. There's no surprises in the school business, and so we would not want somebody to come in here expecting one thing and you expecting another. So we would talk about that as we worked through the process. Again, we talk about the 2-year guarantee on a search that we completed a couple months ago. We're in the process of doing the board self-assessment. If you had a chance to look at our information, we We do allow you to do a board self-assessment initially when the person first comes to the district. And then after about 6 months, if you so desire, we'll come back and do another self-assessment. We think that's a great tool for team building and working with you. Now, there's several, these are just quotes. Again, I think it's in the information from other boards around the country. We're very proud of the work that we've done. We're very proud of the candidates we've placed. We're very proud of the districts that we've worked for, and we feel like we'll bring you the kind of candidates that you would expect to lead your district over the next several years, if not decade. And then in summary, and then we'll get to questions and answers if you want. You know, we do believe that we're a unique size and scope. Obviously, we cover we cover nationally, but again, I'm located in Dallas, in the Metroplex in Dallas, Texas. We've done several searches in districts similar to you and similar in size. We've recently completed Waxahachie ISD. We did Austin ISD in 2015. We did Fort Worth schools a couple of times over the last decade or so. We completed a search in Plano ISD, Louisville ISD. We actually did your search, but it's been a while, in 03 and 09 in Socorro ISD. So we've got some experience with the community and understanding how El Paso works a little bit, if you will. And then you can kind of come see some of the other things back there. Candidate information, we'll go through some in-depth background checks. We do what we would consider a two-step check or a two-level check. Barbara, I don't know if you're able to speak to that a little bit.
Certainly. Step one is we do an extensive professional background check along with media checks. And then once we get to the finalist round, we do very extensive, we do criminal, motor vehicle, everything minus an FBI check is really what we do when we get down to the finalists. It's very extensive.
Thank you. And then as you see, again, those guarantees there, I think one of our strengths, again, as a national firm, but with a Texas base, is that website and the amount of traffic we get there. And I think one of the strengths that you have to offer is that you're Socorro ISD. We think that's going to be a great draw for someone for your district. So with that, I can keep going, but at that, I would say let's stop and let's ask questions, see if there's anything that myself or Barbara or Mike can address. We're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and begin our 15-minute session if we need that much time. Anybody would like to ask a question from Ray and Associates?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Nahara, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you
Yes.
for being here.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. What are the top 3 things about Socorro ISD that you would incorporate into your advertising, and why?
Sure. Mike, do you want to address that? Could you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear it. I want to make sure you can hear me. Am I
Yes.
clear? Can everybody hear? Okay.
Perfectly.
So first of all, thank you for this opportunity. We're thrilled, obviously, to have David and Barbara as part of this team. This is the team that just finished Round Rock. And the unique things about Socorro and what we would bring is that because of the scope we have in Texas, and then the scope we have in the region, the Southwestern region, and then nationally, is we would not only bring those candidates, we place the largest number of women and people of color in the country. And we have done so for over a decade. We will also make sure that the candidates we bring to you are reflective of the makeup of the community, the makeup of the students. So we are well aware of your demographics, and we are very comfortable in our capacity and our experience and our track record of making sure that there will be extremely qualified local, regional, and particularly national educators who also have a real understanding of the uniqueness of Socorro, which we think is the biggest reason we're interested in doing this search.
Then a couple things that I would think of is you are one of the better districts in this area. You're considered
Yes.
to be a highlight of this part of the state. You know, if you look at some of the niche rankings, you know, you're one of the top 40, 45 districts in the state. You're a great place for teachers to teach. At one of your, recent board meetings where you upped your sub pay. I think you have staff that realize that you are about taking care of them. You don't have controversies. It's a beautiful a beautiful place to live in the state. And so I think there's a lot of things that we can sell candidates on Socorro ISD. And honestly, And as we work through the process, and you've seen some of these things, one of the selling points is you, because you're working together well. You don't have big controversies. A lot of people around the state are really struggling with some of the things that have come up during COVID, prior to, during, and after. And you guys have been steady, and you've been all rowing in the same direction. I think that's one of the biggest selling points for you guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Mr. Castellano, go ahead, sir.
What do you all understand about the Socorro Independent School District, its demographics, its needs, its challenges? You know?
Sure. Well, we know that you're, about 92% Hispanic, and then a smattering, about 2.4% African American, and then some other nationalities. So we think there's some strengths there, obviously. But as far as, I think you're probably similar to everyone. You're concerned about, we've had our kids at home for a year and a half. I have an 18-year-old who suffers from ADD, and I won't say some of his other stuff on air, but sitting at home for several months has really caused him to struggle to come back to school. And so I think that's one of the things that I've seen that you've focused on. I know your staff is focusing on to make sure that some of that learning loss, that we can help with that. I know you've got some of your teachers doing some additional tutorials during the day, before or after school, whatever. But I think that learning loss is critical, and I think you're worried. I think you're concerned about that. But beyond that, I don't see anything major there. Barbara, Mike, if there's anything you think of.
I think some of the things that we could focus on would be, diversity, equity, and inclusion certainly is always most important, topmost for us. But also I think some of the strengths are your virtual learning academy, your Tri-Academy, and how you've tried to, mitigate that learning loss for kids. And that's really important and a great sellable point as far as working with your district.
And I would say from the outside looking in as a superintendent, I think you have an outstanding leadership team who is still moving forward and looking at ways they can take care of kids and take care of staff. As Barbara said, y'all haven't just sat on your hands during this time. And so we've seen some pretty progressive things to take care of your kids and make sure that your staff feel not only safe, but cared for and valued.
Are there any other questions? Do we have any other questions for this? Mr. Guerra, go ahead, sir.
I know I read in the catalog, your first meeting, if selected, you want to meet with the board on a one-on-one meeting. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Sure. I'll speak some, and they may fill in some of the gaps. We'd love to meet with you one-on-one to really talk about kind of who you are, what you're looking for, and then we will meet with you individually. And we'll go through, I hate to say a set list of questions, but we want to ask each of you the same question, if you will, about what your hopes and dreams are. What are the positives? What are the negatives? What are the positives about the community? You ask, what do you sell? I know what I sell from the outside, but you guys may know what you'd sell from the inside. And so we'll spend time with each of you one-on-one so that we can understand really what you think are some of the strengths and weaknesses, if you will, of the district. And that will help us to begin to tailor our profile. If communication has been a weakness, for example, we're going to go out and find somebody who's an incredible communicator, and that's proven that. But so we're going to spend some time with you, the trustees, to find out, because as we said before, it's your search. And so we'll find out what each of you is interested in, what you're looking for. But then as we start to set up our community forums or outreach or other programs, you may say, you know what, there's a group that historically we haven't heard from. We haven't heard from our maintenance folks in a while. Will you visit with them? Absolutely, we'll do that. And so we'll allow you to kind of drive the bus, if you will, on how the search goes.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to go next, Barb, and then I'll finish. This is a big part of who we are, what we do, and we do it like nobody else in the country. So Barb, if you want to go ahead.
I think it's important because we understand the importance of fit. And I think that that's a driving factor in all that we do. We understand that not only does it need to be a fit for you, it needs to be a fit for the candidate, because we want to see that candidate stay in that seat for between 5 and 10 years. I think our average is almost 7 years, which is another benefit of Ray and Associates. We really focus on the fit, and the way we find out more information about that fit is by having those intensive conversations with not only you individually as board members, but with the constituency groups that we'll be meeting with as we work with you through the process.
We hope.
I think
go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Dave. I would just like to add, so when you asked about what is this one-on-one, it's part of building a profile. It is a step-by-step process. We will interview each one of you individually by this team. we will then take what you all tell us. You will all respond to the same questions, but we'll take what you tell us and create the themes and the tenets of that. We will then actually, you will give us the idea of the groups that we should, like, as in focus groups, that we should meet with in your community. We will take you through those groups step by step. And there's a set of questions that they will all get asked the same questions, and we will give you those themes. And then the community-wide survey, which is open to everybody, which will actually offer 31 characteristics that are research-based of the qualities that are desired in a superintendent. And everybody in your community has an opportunity to say, here are my 10 favorites. We'll bring you that all back in an analysis, charted, and from that you'll build your profile. Constituent engagement on the front end, building your profile, what you're looking for. And then the second part is we will also have an opportunity to engage them as we go down the road. So all I'm trying to say to you is that the one-on-one piece is part of an overall constituent engagement that gives you as a board a real sense of what your community feels and is looking for. And this is one of the pillars that we've occupied for a while and have actually refined now, honestly, like nobody else in the country.
And obviously, you guys do a lot of tough things, right, all the time. But the biggest thing that you'll do during your tenure is hire the superintendent. And our goal would be to where, A, it's difficult to pick between 2 or 3 or 8 or 10, and B, when you've selected that person, we hope that we've gotten to know you well enough that you feel like you're hiring someone that you've known for 5 years. So when they walk in and talk to your Rotary, your leadership team, your staff, whoever it is, that they all go, you guys knocked it out of the park. And that just takes time, us building a relationship with you.
If I may, one last point is that throughout this constituent engagement, we will provide all translators. We do it consistently. We will provide an atmosphere that is conducive to input of your community and of yourself. So when we do this community-wide survey, we've done it in 23 languages. We typically obviously do it most significantly in Spanish. And we also have our own translators that we work with every time we're in a community that has the makeup. So I just want you to be clear that we do know who you are, and we will actually offer these services, those parts and other parts, based on who you are.
Thank you. We got a question from Mr. Eddie Mena.
Yes, I've seen that you've done 24 searches this year, well, 2020, 2021. One of them in Round Run, Texas, 48,000 people. But I'm also seeing that you have 3 employees only. And when you say team, is it only you 3 that are gonna take care of us, or do you have a larger logistical corporation that you outsource a lot of this information to?
Great
Well,
question.
if I can go ahead and speak to that, it is a great question. We are your main team. We're going to be your point of contact. We want you to know us and we want to know you. I think that's what makes us unique, but we also have a support system behind us. We've got some tremendous folks at the national office that provide all the paperwork. They get the data together. But, David, Mike, and I will be your point of contact, and we'll be the folks that you can pick up the phone and call us. You can text us, email us, because we want to build that relationship with you, that you feel comfortable in reaching out and saying, hey, what does this mean? Let me know a little bit more about that.
If I may, we're the only national firm in the country that has full-time staff in a national office. And we have 3 people full-time and another person part-time. And that doesn't count any of us. And their experience are 8, 6, and 4 years. And actually the 24 searches that you've seen overall during the entire pandemic period, we've placed 61 superintendents. So I appreciate what you saw in the proposal, and what they were speaking to is accurate in that context. But the fact of the matter is, without a home national office, none of that is possible. And so, and Barb and David represent a score of associates around the country. So you're just looking at a small segment of the team who will be dedicated to this search. We have associates going on. I mean, to tell you the truth, we have we're in the teens of what's going on right now. But we will be dedicated to you along with our national office.
Thank you.
Anybody, any other questions to offer to our firm here? Well, that concludes our Q&A for this session.
Awesome.
We thank you all for your time and we appreciate the presentation you gave us.
Thank you. And if we're invited back, just let you know, I'll have a couple of boys with me next time because they love Waco tanks and getting out there and climbing and hiking. So they're excited I'm here this evening. So good luck.
Yes, sir.
Wish
Thank
you
you.
the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
At this time, we'll go to the final firm, which is number 5 in the agenda, and it's actually our 4th for the night. This firm is Texas Association of School Board Executive Search Services. If you would bear with us, the firm is in the house. Okay. I've just been alerted that they're going to go ahead and input the presentation in the for the technology. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you.
We're just got alerted. We're ready to go with you, and when you're ready.
All right.
Welcome to Socorro ISD.
Thank you. It's good to be here, and we appreciate the opportunity to sharing with you, celebrating 60 years. How about that? I like that. And we congratulate you on that. 1961, what was it, 63 people voted, and you came to existence. I tell you, not many people have that type, and look at you today. You know, you're the kind of the poster child, if you will, of excellence in this area. So we're glad to be here with you. I'm Butch Felkner. I'm with TASBY, Texas Association of School Boards, your member organization. I've been with TASBY now 14 and a half years, and former superintendent and so forth. And with me tonight is also some of our colleagues, Dr. Marion Strauss, who you'll be hearing from shortly, and then your field service representative who calls on your district all the time is Mr. Ernesto Martinez. And Ernesto?
Ernesto Martinez. I'm the field service rep for Region 19. Been working for TASBY for over 18 years. Under normal circumstances, I come and visit the district about every 2 months. With COVID, hadn't been around, for a while, but had a RAC meeting this morning. Some of the superintendents thought I had passed away already, said, we haven't seen you. But no, I'm still kicking and alive, and as soon as the doors open, we'll be knocking on your doors. My job, working with these two individuals, is to do, if whenever we get a search, to do anything they want me to do. You know, I just fill in. I'm a retired superintendent of schools. Almost my entire career has been in West Texas. I live in Alpine, Texas, and superintendent for Davis, Alpine, Presidio, Sonora. I just love the West Texas area. Thank you for having us tonight.
So a little bit about our process. Dr. Strauss is going to go over what we do and how we do things. I know you're probably, it's kind of brain dead by now about, another one. And we'll try to make this as painless as possible. But this is why ESS, we manage the process. We have the planning. We conduct profile sessions amongst live meetings if the board wants it. Since COVID obviously has hit, we've done more online survey stuff than we have actual face-to-face meetings with folks, but we have that capability of doing that. We certainly advertise your position. We handle the application process. It's all electronic. Everything goes through us electronically. There's no paper and all that involved in this, and that's how we communicate with you as a board. We recruit applicants, both in-state and out-of-state. I'm the past president of the National Affiliation of Superintendent Searchers, so there's no one in the United States that I cannot reach out to, and we can't recruit. So we can do those things, both in-state and out-of-state. We obviously contact references. We handle the interview processes and things along that line, and we help with contract negotiations. And so that's kind of some of the things that we do. And like I said, we're the oldest and largest educational search firm in the state. We've been more Texas public schools entrust their search with us than anyone else. And so that's a little bit about us. And so now Dr. Strauss will come and share with you about herself and the process.
Hi, my name is Marion Strauss, and I'm a retired superintendent. Spent time in the Panhandle and in Central Texas and out in East Texas. So I tell people now I get to work for TASBY. So I've been with TASBY about 10 years, and this is what we do full time. Our process, we believe, is divided into 3 parts, and those are the 3 parts: the board prep, getting you prepared for everything that you're going to encounter during the search process. Profile, interview, and select, we're going to take care of those things, and that'll be the second part of the process. And then the transition session, or transition from the leadership, the new superintendent, into the district with you. So we have a process that we do to ensure that he gets off to a good start, or she, and the board gets off to a good start with them. First is board prep, and so we ask for your commitment. We want we want you to follow your roles, responsibilities, and involvement, and we go through that very clearly. We believe that it should be a confidential search, and all of our school districts agree to the confidentiality, and that is that none of the applicants will be revealed until the lone finalist is named, and then it's just that one person. And the reason we do that is because we want the very best applicants to apply for every district that we work with, and they trust us that that information is not going to get back to their home district. We believe in mutual respect, which is kind of a given. And then we're going to come up with a timeline. We're going to have public, as Butch said, public and private conversations with your constituency. So we're going to do an online survey and ask questions that will help you in developing the questions that you may want to ask your candidates. And then we gather all of that public input and give it back to you in a report. So the profile development, we're going to look at the skills and experiences that you're looking for, of course the certification, and clarity and consensus with all of you. There is a lot of consensus that goes on during the search process. During the profile, interview, and select portion of the search, again, the profile sessions, we ask you to determine the groups that you want us to meet with. If you want us to meet in person with your chamber group, your city group. We always meet with faculty and staff, administrators, and then public. So we come into the district and actually hold in-person sessions now that we're able to get out again. TASBY's allowed us to get out and go into districts again. And we also do an online survey. So anyone that would like to contribute to the online survey will have the opportunity to do that. Again, we will give you the full report. You will see everything that everyone submitted, both online and in person. Our application process, again, is all online, and we're going to talk a little bit about the video component that we have. The interviewing, all the candidates are submitted to you, and we usually give you about a week to go through those, and then we come in and give you the information that you need in order to make the determination about who you want to talk to. So we bring you with people. We have Ernesto here in your area, but we have 9 other field service agents that are throughout the state of Texas. So there isn't a superintendent that we don't know, and there isn't anyone that we can't reach out to nationally as well. We handle all of the interview. We don't want to put any additional work on anyone in the district, so we take care of all of the paperwork and all of the things that need to be handled. And then we believe in 2 interviews, and you've probably heard this 3 other times. One with just the candidate, and then another one that's more informal where it could involve the spouse if you wanted to do that. So there we select 6 to 8 candidates for round 1. You select those and talk to them, and then bring back 3 that rise to the top after you've interviewed them. We also have a site visit in our planning. That's optional, but you could go to the home district of the person of choice that you've decided upon. And then we also will assist with all the contract discussions and the compensation. We will give you the current compensation information for districts your size throughout the state of Texas, and also all of those in your regional service center. We've just added a video interviewing component, so with every applicant, you will see a video of that person answering 3 questions. So we feel like this has been already a great benefit to boards. It just gives you another way of looking through. You'll have probably between 45 to 65 applicants, and having that extra component will make a big difference in you being able to narrow it down to whoever it is that you want to talk to. This is what it looks like when you get it. You receive all of the applications electronically. Within the application, there's a live link. You click on it, and it brings you to this, where they will answer the 3 questions, and you'll get to see them. So again, we think this is a big benefit to boards. It's going to help them in their process. The last thing is the transition sessions. And we believe that in order to get off on the very best foot, it's important that you sit down and talk with your new superintendent, your new leader. And so we have added a session that LTS comes in. It's either Phil Gore, Kay, Douglas, or Orrin Moore will come in within the first 90 days and actually sit down with you and talk about those things that you want to see in the first 90 days, in the first 6 months, and then start talking about what you're going to evaluate the superintendent on after the first year. So with that, we feel like it has smoothed some of those early miscommunications that may happen, and it's really gotten people off on a better foot. So you know, that's going to be your commitment to in the successful transition. But we talk about all of this throughout the search process. We have a 2-year guarantee. If your superintendent leaves for any reason other than a family emergency, we're going to come back and do the search at no fee, just travel and expenses. Here are some of the districts that we've done recently. I don't see United on there. We completed United a while back, so that's another
It was
one.
on the far left.
Okay, I missed it. So we're ready. You want to summarize, Butch?
We're ready whenever you are. Obviously, we have a history of success. As I said, more Texas Public Schools entrust their search with us than anyone else. We're here. We have the, we three are going to be the head, the faces that you'll see. There's other folks behind the scenes that you won't see that will be committed to your process. So we're all in, if you will, on that. We have the relationships not only in the state of Texas, but also around the United States to make connections that need to be made. And the whole purpose is to go along with your theme that's, bannered everywhere in your district, is you're wanting, and we're wanting the right person, the right fit. We don't want it the second time, we want it the first time, and we want that person to last. And, I've worked in your neighboring district of Clint twice and just visited with the superintendent there at the convention we had just last week. And, things are going well there, and had a great time over there. Couldn't believe that he's been there 8 years. And I'm like, wow, I love that. So it's what I tell boards. I said, it's not that I don't like you, I just don't want to come back anytime soon. And I want everything to go well, and I want the person to stick in your district for a long time and to carry on the traditions and the excellence that you have. Our fee is not to burden a district. Say, well, your fee is not that much. Well, the reason is we're committed not to burden the Texas Public Schools in financial issues. And we know what we can do. We know what we do. You're our member district, and we want to take care of our member districts. And so that's what we do and how we do the things. So if you have any questions, I don't know if that's the protocol, but we're certainly able and willing to answer.
Yes, we have a designated 15-minute session that we're able to have a Q&A session at this time, and we'll have our board members ask questions from your firm. Who would like to start? Mr. Michael Nahara, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Faulkner, right?
Yes.
In the materials that you handed out, it says that the inclusive fee is quoted, and that's $19,500. However, in the same materials, it says that a national search, to conduct a national search or expand the advertising, there's additional costs. So the fee quoted does not include a national search or national advertising?
The fee includes a national search. You get that for free. Our sister organizations around the United States pick up all of our searches. We have reciprocal agreements with all of them. So they advertise our searches along with the National School Board Association. And of course, we're affiliation of them. The only thing that caveat is in there is because of Education Week. Some boards want to advertise on Education Week. Personally, we have not found the success in Education Week as we would like to. More people are going to other venues and other websites rather than Education Week, if you will. But that's why that little caveat's in there that we leave. But as far as the national search, no, it's advertised nationally. It's on K-12 job boards and things like that.
Okay. And then, sorry.
Go ahead. No. Got time.
The information says that ESS has a 99% search completion rate. That means that 1% is not complete. For those that it's not complete, what do you think the most common reason is for that?
99 completion rate of searches?
Correct. This says success rate. ESS has a 99% search completion rate. So I'm wondering, what about the other 1%?
The other 1% would be that if The board chose not to, go with the candidates. The candidate fell out or something like that and chose to go a different direction. That would be the only reason. And be honestly, I can't think of that board that has done that. I know we've had one in the past that, we had a little difficulty with because there was some friction on the board and the board wouldn't meet. And so, we ran into that trouble. But outside that, I can't think of anything other than that.
Two more quick ones.
Go ahead.
You mentioned the second round of that you maintain confidentiality until the finalist. Our last superintendent search, we had 2 candidates come and they interviewed with the community, which means confidentiality was out the door. But it was critical because it was during those interactions that we saw, the polished person start to remove or to fall out, the act, and truly the interaction of the person, the personality, the true personality came out. So is that a possibility, or are you saying there's no possibility for exclusion? Confidentiality is maintained until the lone finalist.
That's how most of our boards handle it. The confidentiality is maintained to the lone finalist because that's, of course, statute. But no, we set it up. You are in charge of the search. We're here to guide and help you along the way. So it's your search. If you want that, all we tell boards is that we have to let the candidates know in advance what's coming. And because you don't want to be blindsided, we don't want to be blindsided, and the candidates certainly don't want to be blindsided. So we just inform them, and that's all. So we can set it up however you want to.
Right. Okay, and then my last question. Looking at the list of the search history, you mentioned you're the largest superintendent search firm in Texas, right? And yet, as I look at it, there's only 3 school districts with a student enrollment over 22,000. Why do you think most of the largest districts in Texas are not selecting TASBY ESS?
We have a lot of our school districts come because the majority of school districts in Texas are around 2,000 or less. And so we offer a service to them as well, where the large search firms don't really get into those small districts like that. So we try to service all the districts in the state of Texas. As mentioned, we just finished, we did Brownsville, 40-something thousand kids, United, 40-something thousand kids. So we have that history. We've done the Carrollton Farmers Branch twice in the Dallas area. So we have the history there. But it's not that I don't think they're taking us. It's just that sometimes, they like this different groups. Okay. Same thing like if I go to the shop, go out to eat, I'm going to select one thing over another, not because it's not bad food. It's just this is my preference. So that's kind of where we are.
Thank you.
Ms. Nahara, go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. Can you please tell me the top 3 things about Socorro ISD that you will use as a positive in your advertising for this position?
I think the history of Socorro and the academic performance that's going on here today, the number of alternative campuses, high school campuses, how you're serving students, and the things that are going on in the district are going to be great recruiting tools. And so I think that's 3.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And I will tell you, it's always about the board. Every superintendent candidate that calls always asks, tell us about the board. And so that's going to be a real positive as well. I know that no one's up for reelection for another couple of years. And so this is going to be very stable for whoever's coming in. They won't have to worry about that, about losing you all that selected them and someone new coming in. So I think that's a positive as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Castellano.
What are your understandings of the Socorro Independent School District itself, its demographics, its makeup, its the needs, the challenges? What do you understand about us?
Well, what I can tell you about this district, of course, right now you need a superintendent, but I sort of kept up with this district a little bit because I've got some ex-students who work for your district. And one of the things they always tell me is not need, but it's always positive about the support and just the overall positive atmosphere that they have and the working conditions that they have. And they said, we would never leave Socorro ISD for another district. Now, being on the border, I mean, you got some of the typical issues that everybody else has, working with bilingual ed, first generation students, et cetera, and now COVID, as well. But overall, I think this is one of the best districts anywhere. And most of the things I hear are always positive. I know there's bumps, along the way. I know you've had them over the years, but overall, it's hard to beat. And this whole area is. I always brag about Region 19 because I'm from another part of West Texas where bilingual ed, for example, is an issue and can't seem to get over it. But you all have handled that issue tremendously well. And that's all I've got to say about that.
Mr. Martinez, I have a quick question for you. How often do you visit El Paso? What is your role as far as being a field representative?
Yes, sir. Under normal circumstances, I try to see every school district at least once every 2 months, sometimes every 3 months. I come to every RAC meeting at Region 19, any conferences, sometimes that the Far West Texas School Board has, they invite me to come to those as well. I love El Paso to begin with, so I'm here with every opportunity I get. My job is to promote TASBY and make sure I'm sort of the mid person here to make sure that we keep relationships open between the school district and TASBY. So I go through the superintendent's office. A lot of times the superintendents are real busy, so I meet with their secretaries. And I get a lot of information from everybody, but I try to come out here every 2 or 3 months.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Guerra.
Just recently, you all were selected in EPISD, but there was a conflict of interest. Can you explain what happened there?
Yes, I'd be happy to. In this day of lack of transparency, which in my opinion happens a lot in today's world, as we were in the middle of the search there, I was informed that one of my team members' relatives was interested in the position and applying for the position. When that happened, I spoke to my superiors at TASBY, and then we contacted the district and told them that, here's the options that you have, and we're not going to charge you anything. It's if you want to shut us down because we don't want any improprieties or anything looking like smoke and mirrors that we are pushing a candidate because we don't want that we'll be happy to back out of this. And so we gave them that option, and that's what the board chose to do to kind of clear the path if that person actually did want to apply for the position. We felt like we were trying to be as transparent as possible. Some people can say that wasn't a good move, but I feel like as long as we can be honest and upfront and transparent with the district, that's, to me, is paramount. Yep, okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, well, with that said, thank you very, very much for your presentation.
Thank you so much for allowing us to be here. We usually come by and shake hands, but under the circumstances, we appreciate it so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Safe travels to you. God bless.
Mr. Morales, take a recess, 5-10 minute recess.
Yes. The board is going to go ahead and take a 5-minute recess at this time. The time is 7:29. We are back in session. The time is 7:38. We're going to go ahead and proceed to item 5. Under new business. A discussion and possible action to select and engage a superintendent search firm to assist the district with the recruitment and selection of the candidate or the candidates to be considered for the superintendent of the schools of the superintendent of schools. At this time, we're going to go ahead and entertain discussion, discuss in somewhat detail, determine if one of the firms that we have were given the presentation this evening to see if we can come to a consensus.
Morales?
Go ahead, Ms. Nahara.
And I don't know if we want to take each firm and discuss pros and cons, or if we just want to go with what each board member feels. Does it matter? Personally, I heard a lot of good things about JG Consulting. I really like that they don't have a stable of superintendents that they pull from. What we learned during our last superintendent search is that some firms, one of which applied tonight, will go back to superintendents that they've placed in the past within the last 3 to 5 years and start poaching. And me personally, I don't like that. So I was glad to hear that. I also like that they don't have any other consulting going on right now because they wanted this chance to work with Socorro ISD. That shows a commitment to me that they turned down other searches in order to be available for our search. I like the on-demand interview, but we did hear that all of them are doing that. I like that they're Texas-based, and they've never failed a search. I like the process that they're going to go through with interviewing the board members, which all of them are going to do that, but the points of pride to let us determine what we're looking for in a superintendent in developing their leadership profile. I really liked what I heard from JG Consulting.
Mr. Mena, go ahead.
I also like JG Consulting. I just like the fact that they don't recruit any superintendent that's running away from something. I like that statement that person made, the individual. I just totally agree with Ms. Nájera. The on-demand interviews, so that's awesome. They're based out of Austin, Texas. They have 35 full-time employees, which is great. They have the most employees of all the firms that we interviewed. To me, the employee means a lot for some reason. It says that company is growing, even though they're only 4 or 5 years old. But and I saw it in him. He's motivated. He's waiting for us. He's turned down other companies, other ISDs, and it just gave me a good vibe. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mr. Mena. Go ahead, Mr. Castellan.
Both the first 2 firms are excellent. I looked at
McPherson and Jacobson. Mm-hmm.
Because they actually did the research on our district, and she actually knew the numbers and the demographics. They took the time to actually research us and take that into consideration. The other ones didn't. I was surprised TASBY didn't have anything that they didn't understand our district. McPherson did. They have 80% of their superintendents are still with their district after 5 years. 99% success rate in searches, and they look like they can get from a national talent. And I think that would be something unique for El Paso to look from shore to shore, you know?
Good, valid point. Good point made. I'd like to be, go ahead. You go ahead. I'll comment right after. Mr. Nahara, go ahead.
I think I also like JG Consulting. I think McPherson was a strong candidate as well. The only thing that they said that concerned me was that they have translators, you know, and so, well, okay, they have translators, and then that they've not done searches along the Texas border. They've done searches along the California Mexico border, but liking Texas to California is it's not an accurate comparison. You know, if you're trying to say that the communities, while there are similarities, I mean, they're two very distinct, and I think especially our area, you know, so it wouldn't be similar. I was concerned that they said that they would use translators, because I believe knowing, you know, both languages and speaking them, when I listen to translation, the culture is lost. You know, the personality behind the statement, the meaning behind the statement is lost. And, you know, JG Consulting shared that they could conduct the meetings in Spanish, and conducting and translating are two very, very, very different things. I was very impressed by what Mr. Guerra said, and I think Mr. Mena already mentioned it. He said, you know, we're not looking for people who are running from their current district. We're looking for people who want to come here, you know, and two very, very different, you know, positions to go from. I agree that organization looks hungry, you know, and they too mentioned that they have, you know, consultants across the United States, that they would conduct a national search. They also said, you know, a couple of the other search firms said they would receive 45 applicants, you know, and then trim that down. What I heard JG Consulting say is they would bring us 45 candidates. So, you know, to me, that means it's not just, that's dwindling it down from, you know, all the applicants. And I think that's you know, a great pool, a candidate pool for us. No one up there said that they would have a difficult time, you know, trying to recruit. Every single firm that stood up there said, this is a great district, we're recognized, we're known throughout the industry, you know, on and on and on and on. So, you know, I don't think attracting candidates is going to be difficult. It's just going to be, you know, whittling it down to, you know, the finalists that we're looking for there. I too was disappointed in the response from TASBY. You know, and to me, I mean, TASBY is I would say about as local as we're going to get, right? TASBY, we're a part of the association, and I think that they would probably be they wouldn't be, I don't think they're the best option. Let's just say that. What concerned me is, you know, my very direct question is, why don't the other large districts in Texas select them? And some of the numbers that they quoted were wrong. They, you know, they are, and they did mention all three districts, the three districts above 20,000 students. He meant, they were right. It was those three districts. But the enrollment in those districts, only the first one was right, the other two were incorrect. And so, but the question still stands. I mean, yeah, there are, you know, when we think of the thousands of districts throughout Texas that exist, a majority of them are small, right? But there's what, 45 urban school districts, large urban school districts, at least when we go to TASBY meetings, that's the number that they, you know, say, and yet only 3 of them have selected them. So, you know, it concerns me. I was looking for an answer. I was hoping to say, you know, I was hoping to be enlightened with the question, with the answer to the question. I wasn't. So I still don't know, and to me it makes me wonder, well, maybe the other districts choose TASBY because they are the more affordable. It's the only option. You know, they can't, all the other larger firms don't want to, or don't respond to RFPs when those school districts solicit, for search firms. I don't know. That would have been a good answer.
Go ahead, Mr. Barrera.
I mean, I do like McPherson and Jacobson, especially that they're willing to work with us even a year after the superintendent is selected. When I was looking at the urban enrollment districts that they've worked with, I mean, they work with 125. I think there was one that I came across that was like, if I'm not mistaken, it was like 304,000 students. I think that was in Vegas. And I was just impressed with their numbers and their big school districts and the pool that they can go from shore to shore and they can bring to us. And, maybe that they haven't been in Texas might actually be a good thing, because now they might actually want to hone in on Texas, and maybe we can set the precedence for them to want to come to Texas and look at us more. So I think they're going to, it sounded like they were going to give us that attention that we're going to need for our next superintendent. So I like what they had to offer. And with TASBY, it was the same. I mean, I think all of us have that same concern, especially what happened with EPISD. But McPherson and Jacobson was someone I liked.
Thank you for your input. I'd like to go on record in public and say that I appreciate the four taking the time and presenting this evening. And I believe they all had unique attributes, and there were a lot of similarities across the board. They all basically chimed in within their requirements of what the expectations. And so, I think overall, they were all valid, firms. However, I think two of them are looking to me like they're surfacing here. There's two that I keep hearing the names come up, and I think for valid reasons. I believe the first two, if I'm not mistaken, those had very, very valid, extensive input. They had a lot of useful information for us. They talked specifics, and they were very well prepared in their presentation, if you would. Very well prepared. They knew what they were talking about. And like that, you start looking at things like little details, like a lot of us have mentioned. The other thing is, I'd like to also say is that we have 3 board members here that have had the experience of doing what we're doing this evening. And I think that's very important, because sometimes those that have the experience can maybe also act as leaders for us, give us guidance anyway. And with that guidance and some of the things that known in the past that possibly, with all due respect, maybe error in the past or maybe success in the past, those things can bring us and bring our community the best possible firm that we can find to help us get our superintendent, to find the best possible fit for our community. So, that would be, I'm sure we're going to have some input by Mr. Guerra, because I do know he's got the experience, like Miss Cynthia Nahara and Mr. Nahara down in the corner, Mr. Michael Nahara. So, it's very important to us to hear from you all, because, like I said, you guys have already tested the waters prior. Go ahead if you don't mind.
And like you mentioned, I mean, both firms, all 4 firms were excellent, but over the weekend, I did go listen to TASBY in Dallas, and they gave a great presentation. Unfortunately, today I was not happy, and maybe they went with the smaller districts. They were chosen because maybe they could afford them, maybe that's why. I was impressed with McPherson. Just the only downfall, since they haven't had no search firms in Texas, I think to me that's a downfall for them. I did like JG Consulting, they're a firm in Texas. I think what stood out is that they did search firms in Fort Worth, Austin, and Houston. Houston is one of the largest districts in Texas. I did speak to one of the board members. I reached out to him, Mrs. Wagner, last night in Austin. She spoke very highly of JG Consultant. She mentioned the other search firms. She spoke very highly of JG Consultant. I reached out to Mr. Rodriguez. He couldn't call me back. He's an attorney, unfortunately. But she was very happy with JG Consultant. We dealt with Ray and Associates for the last twice with Dr. Duron and with Dr. De La Torre. They're excellent search firms. I just think this time around, I believe JG to me stands out. I think the presentation to me stood out by far, being a Texas firm, and just by them choosing Austin and Houston. They know our demographics. They're from Texas, and Houston being one of the largest districts here in Texas, I think they stand out. And I believe that being said, I would like to make a motion to pick JG Consulting for the superintendent search firm.
Second.
Is there any further discussion before we move on? Any further discussion?
I'd just like to say one thing real quick. They did rank number 2. I have no problem with JG. Just if you're going to conduct an interview with an employer, do the background. But I really don't have nothing else against JG. They should have done a little more research on us.
Anyone else? We're good to go. We have a motion by Mr. Paul Guerra and a second by Ms. Cynthia Nahara.
Well, I'm sorry. Mr. Castellano, I just want to understand, are you saying we should have, that we should do a background check on JG?
No, they should have, when we asked them
Oh,
about our
I
district, they
understand.
should have said,
Yeah.
hey, we, do a little more research on us. That
I'm
was
sorry.
it.
I understand
But
now.
I mean, overall, I ranked them up there too.
Yeah.
so,
Okay,
I don't
get you.
think we're going to go wrong either way we go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Once again, a motion was made by Mr. Paul Guerra and a second by Ms. Cynthia Nahara to approve this item as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. At this time, we are going to move to executive session. The meeting is to be closed to consider administrative recommendation for the school improvement officer position under Texas Government Code Section 551.074. The time is 7:56. We will go to executive session. We're back in session, and the time is 8:05. We're going to move to the item, I believe it's item 7, new business. Consider approval of administrative recommendation. Ms. Marta C. Carmona, please, could you go ahead and discuss your choice?
Good evening, President Morales and members of the board. Administration recommends Gina Exenzeri to assume the roles and responsibilities as the new school improvement officer in the Academic Services Department.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Paul Guerra and a second by Mr. Eddie Mena. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. If there's no further business for this board, the meeting is adjourned. The time is 8:06.